the 10th of May today, slightly later garden tour than usual, but until the last couple of days the weather has been foul, so we've had loads of rain, torrential, which has meant everything looks really lush. I am amazed and astonished how well these ranunculus have done this year. So without further ado, I'm going to walk myself to the top of the garden and we're going to start from there as usual. I can't wait to show you. Under the apple tree we've got the last of the pheasantine narcissi, which have been rather munched by the slugs this year. The honesty is now going to seed. We've got campion, we've got all sorts coming up, a bit of hesperus, so it's looking really pretty here now. The apple mint is going to definitely need a Chelsea chop. I've got 2 different beds here and I'm planning to cut one right back in a few weeks' time before it goes to flower so that it'll get new growth, which I'll then be able to use. I'll be able to use it a little bit better then. The cornflowers are just about to pop. Remember, these were autumn sown and most of them have been pinched out, and yeah, there's 1 or 2 flowers here already, so I'm really looking forward to being able to use those soon. And also the bunny tails. The rest of this border is looking fab at the moment. The geums are popping up. I've still got more pheasantine narcissi, some sweet william, some aquilegia. The honesty, as I said earlier, has gone to seed, and I spotted some newts in the pond this morning, which was very exciting. First time I've seen those. So it's all coming together. I love the graceful habit of the corn cockle. I've got mainly white with a little bit of rose, pale blush almost, corn cockle here too. The tulips, you'll notice, are out and have been replaced with cynoglossum literally just yesterday. I've wrapped up my daucus to try and fend off the carrot fly as best as possible. Apart from that, everything is just on the point of budding up and flowering here. I can't wait for the clary sage to come in flower. It's just so unusual. Finally, the sweet pea arch has been finished, so it's pretty strong, I think. Hopefully it'll last a couple of years, and I've got the jute string on and I've got my sweet peas in, and I've just started to tie those in. And on the lower side, the lavatera is looking really healthy. I've not grown it before, so I'm quite excited to see what that's going to be like. And the Gypsophila Covent Garden is just about to come into flower too. The Ami sown in the autumn, I've just netted that to try and keep the carrot fly out. The ranunculus have almost finished. They've been absolutely amazing this year, the ranunculus, but really far too early for me. I could have done with them hanging on for a few more weeks, but spectacular nonetheless, and bearing in mind they've been out all winter. My particular favourite is this salmon one. Okay, on to the alliums and perennial beds. So the allium purple sensation and the Atropurpureum nigrum, the white ones, they're coming out, as well as the bulgaricum. Forgot about those. They're going to be buzzing with bumblebees very soon. The perennials are still just growing on. The astrantia is about the only one that's actually flowering just yet. I've got a little gap here, so I'm planning on putting the scabiosa ping pong here. So I've got a few of those, they'll fit perfectly there. That's why annuals are always great for just filling in little spaces. And the astrantia, just coming out, it's a bit fresh for the minute. Next weekend it will condition an awful lot better. The little greenhouse, or my nursery as I like to put it, my nursery school, is still full of fairly small plants, either things that still need to be potted on, pricked out. These seedlings are ready to be transplanted. And I tend to transplant most things into these size modules first. When the plants get a little bit bigger, that's when I get them into the bigger greenhouse. The Orlea is magnificent in the greenhouse. The heat of the greenhouse or a polytunnel, it's so much bigger and stronger. It was about a foot tall when I grew it outside. So here's quite a good selection of things that are just growing on. They're not quite ready to pot on. I've actually got 400 or 500 plants at the ready to be potting on this afternoon up there. They've just been moved from here temporarily. I'll pot them on to slightly bigger pots and then I'll come back in here. I've set up a workstation so that I can quickly and efficiently pot on these seedlings into the next size pot. Clearly this is a speeded up version and I did several hundred in this section. I've also been keeping my dahlias in here. Some of these are ones that were divided. I've also got a dozen or so that are new to me this year. Time to take a look and see how the orchard's getting on. The main thing in the orchard area is that there's a big reveal on the dahlias. The Sweet William looking fantastic, and the Hesperus is really coming into its own too. So the dahlias were uncovered a week or so ago, only a week ago actually. They were very yellow, some were very tall, like these ones right at the front, some were hardly showing. I've obviously had a bit of an attack of the slugs, so in an effort to try and keep on top of them, I put some cider traps rather than beer traps. I had a moderate amount of success last night. We'll see how we go. Foxgloves are bulking up reasonably well, but this lot here are a little bit weedy. We have fed them with some seaweed solution, but looking slightly better, but yeah, just a little bit weedy. I'm not quite sure why. The Hesperus, if you could smell this, it's just amazing. I didn't chop this half down, but I did give the other half a chop, just so that I didn't have too many like massive stems, and I've had to corral it a bit, as you can tell, just to stop it from flopping over. I was slightly concerned about when I pinched out the honesty, but I needn't have been. It was definitely the right thing to do. Those tiny little side shoots have come into something really usable, certainly when it comes to seed. We've planted up a bed here with some fillers, some daucus, some dill and a bit of auroch. The sweet William auricular-eyed is still waiting to flower, and the alba is looking fabulous. I'm so happy that there's not a touch of virus to be seen at all this year. So there we have it. That's the May 2024 garden tour. The garden seems to be in a different state every single year, but it's certainly looking as lush as I have known it at this time of year for quite some time. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and let's tune in June to see how all those hardy annuals, which are teeny weeny at the moment, will have grown.